Hi, I'm Hannah, and this is my case study about the little soprano that could. So, my student was Brianna. She was a soprano at Tuscaloosa County High School, a really incredible girl, super easy to work with, to be honest. I had a really easy time with her. She was very eager to learn, very self-motivated, and we got along super well, and so it was just really fun every time we got together. Miss Coleman wanted me to work with Brianna on her solo and ensemble performance pieces for her performance coming up. So, in addition to the concepts that we would learn together of just, general improvement of sound, we would work with just, fixing problem areas in her solo and ensemble pieces, as well as adding the concepts that we were learning to those pieces to help her get her best sound possible. So it was really fun working with her. Um, the first things that I noticed upon our first meeting were her breathing and placement. A lot of times her breathing would be very shallow or unsupported, especially in her upper register. She would want to crack, it would get kind of tight or constricted, especially in her upper register. And so I knew that a lot of that probably had to do with her breath and her support and everything. So I really wanted to work on that and get some techniques to teach her to help her with that. Another thing was her placement. Her placement most of the time was very nasal and frontal and forward. So I wanted to be able to teach her some concepts. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, but I wanted to teach her some things about how to get away from that more frontal sound to a more heady space, a more floaty space, and to just help her, as I said, again, especially in her upper register as a soprano, singing in choir, and things like that. So those are the two main things that I wanted to work on. So here is an example of one of my lesson plans. Some of the things that we would do, as I've circled here, as you can see, to help her with control and engagement of her abdominal muscles, we would work with staccato exercises a lot of the time. That would just really get things woken up down there and everything, and just have her be, she would have to be really intentional about keeping that engagement going to be able to keep up with those staccato exercises. So that was one thing we would start out with. Another thing that really helped her, probably the most out of everything we did, was just the idea of keeping the phrase moving and just growing it. A lot of times we would do hand motions and everything to help with this. So just think, okay, grow the phrase, take it somewhere, and that would really make her have to work a good bit more to get that engagement going and that support to get through the phrase. Another thing that we went through was singing full voice. I think a lot of the time, because we were in a smaller space for our lesson, she would sort of back away from the sound, whereas I would listen to her in her choir rehearsals, and she would sing full out. She wouldn't have any problems getting things in the upper register, so I would just encourage her a lot of the time, sing louder, sing full voice, don't shy away from it, and that really helped her too. As you can see here, to get a more heady sound and move away from the nasal sound, one of the things that we did that was sort of an aha moment for her was singing with her nose pinched. It sort of allowed her to see how much sound was truly coming through her nose rather than through that heady space that we were trying to get to. And so when we did this, it was a little later on in our lessons, she realized, oh wow, how much it is coming through. So then she was able to apply a lot of the other techniques we had learned to try to get to that space and say, okay, now what can I do to get it away from there now that I really realized how much it is coming through in that place. So that was a really good sort of revelation that we had in one of our lessons. So some of the breathing exercises that we would do the initial thing that I taught her was just the idea of you don't have to overwork to get a good breath. You don't have to take a big gasping breath. It shouldn't hurt when you do it. Your chest shouldn't raise, all of those things. But it's really as simple as just relaxing the abdominal muscles and releasing them to just sort of let the air come in and fill up that vacuum. So we would exhale everything we would have in us, and we would blow it all out, and then we'd hold it for a few seconds, and then we'd simply just relax the muscles, and she would see just from that how much air she truly got back in. So that was a good thing. We would bend at the knees sometimes just to get sort of a feel of being grounded and supported and all that. As I said, we do the staccato warm-ups. I would encourage her to sing with full sound, and then the singing through the phrase, and all that really helped her. Placement exercises that we did. One of the first ones that we did was singing on an NG sound, just and it really was not successful for her. I did it with her because it was really successful for me early on in my music career. It really was sort of a breakthrough for me, so I thought it would work for her, and it really didn't. So that was interesting to see what can work for different people and what doesn't. So we scratched that one. We did the concept of, singing through the eyes, singing through the forehead. That was good. Singing with cheeks lifted, face lifted. She held on to that one a lot. She really liked that. As I said, pinched nose. And another thing was we would just think keeping our tongue back and high, especially in her upper register. And that really surprised me how well that worked for her. Just thinking about that, she was really able to grasp onto that. And I would tell her sometimes to just experiment with it. I'd say, okay, sing this phrase that you just sang. And when you get to this spot, move your tongue around a little bit, move it back, move it forward, and see how the sound moves. And she was really good, like I said, about being self-motivated to do that and really sit there and experiment and figure out the concepts that we were trying to talk about, and that was really good. So those are a few things that help for placement. Here's a few sound clips. The first one that I want you to listen to is we were doing warm-ups just with the concept of singing through the phrase. So it really helped her. Like I said, it was much better than we had been in several previous lesson times. So that's the first one, and then I'll tell you about the second one after that. So here's the first.
Sounds good. Got it. You got to keep going. Keep going.
So that was the first one. That had helped a lot in that lesson. The second one is when we were singing with the nose pinched. And it was the first time we'd ever done it, so it was very experimental. But just to hear the difference in the sound that it made, especially in her placement, it's a much more mature sound. It's definitely still developing. She's not used to it yet, so there's still some nasally sound. But it's a more mature sound. It has more of a floaty sound to it, and just the overall sound is pretty different. So here's this one.
Thinking about your cheeks. Really floated up there at the top. Blast my ears.
So that last one where I said blast my ears, that was sort of me just giving her that sing full out thing again, and it sort of changed the sound again. So that was really interesting to see. So finally, we got to her solo and ensemble performance. I went back for another lesson. We weren't able to have one, but she was able to sit there and tell me about just how good she felt about her solo and ensemble performance, and how so many of the things that we had worked on really helped her, and she really felt secure in a lot of the places that she felt really insecure about when we first met. So that was just really rewarding for the both of us, I think, and it was just really fun to get to work together and to see the culmination of everything that we had done together over the semester. So it was a really fun experience getting to work with Brianna, and I was thankful for the experience.